Okay, good afternoon. So, so did you guys see my email? I talk about the arrangement for this week. Do you guys see my email?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Queen. Okay, so to summarize what I said in the email, first, today's class, we are going to learn section 5A. Section 5A was scheduled on next Tuesday. However, next Tuesday, we are going to do our second exam, okay? So basically, because of my own fault, I forgot to post the exam to review practice set last week. So that's why I decided to delay one class period for the exam 2. Okay, is that clear?
So what we're learning today will not be on the exam 2?
Okay, so this is purely in English understanding question. So I think according to English, I should say no. What you learned today will not appear in the exam 2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just say something funny. But in my language, when you ask me that question, I actually should say yes, it will not appear. Yeah, so it'll take me 5 seconds to convert my thinking into English. Okay, so on Thursday this week, we are going to do 2 things. First, we are going to answer all the questions you may have about the exam 2 practice set. Second, we are also going to discuss the feedbacks I received from you. Remember, you have completed the mid-semester survey. So I was reading it in the recent days, and I make a document to gather all the suggestions or feedbacks you have for me in document, and I'm trying to address each one by one. So on Thursday, I will tell you my adjustments or my solution to your feedback, how I will change. And you should tell me whether you are happy or whether you have a better suggestion, or if you have something different you want me to do. Okay? So that's the plan for Thursday. Great. So does anyone has any question before we start section 5A? So just to remind you, please work on the exam 2 practice set, and do not forget that every time we have exam, we have exam wrapper to do, okay? Exam wrapper, do not forget that. Okay, so any question? Okay, so today we're going to learn statistics, which is very, very different from what we learned before. So let me tell you 2 things. First, today's class is more of a verbal class. We're not doing something calculation. All we are doing is trying to understand it verbally, those definitions and ideas. We are understanding it verbally in today's class. We're not doing any kind of calculation. Okay, so use your common sense. Okay, do not overthink. Use your common sense. Stay calm. Think rationally. The ideas behind the concepts. So let's watch a YouTube video first. As our long-time tradition, every time we learn something new, I want you guys to watch a well-made YouTube video. So this YouTube video is 5 minutes and 27 seconds. Okay. Okay, get ready. Start.
We're going to talk about a couple of very important definitions. The first definition is that of a population. So population. So a population is everything you care about. So let me just say it's every individual of interest. So it's everything you care about. So if you care about the GPAs of all the students at your local college, your population is all of the GPAs. Now, there is a number that is associated with the population. It's called a parameter. So a parameter is a number that tells you something about a population. So this is a number that describes some aspect of the population. So some aspect of, I'll use bad English, of population. So a parameter is a number that describes some aspect of your population. So for example, if your population was all of the GPAs of all of the students at your school, then a parameter could be the average GPA of those students, right? So, and look at this, PP, population parameter, pretty easy to memorize. Now in the real world, it's really hard to survey entire populations. Populations can be really big. So what we do is we take some of the individuals from a population. That's called a sample. So a sample is a subgroup of the population. That's what a sample is, okay? It's a subgroup of the population. And likewise, there is a number that is associated with a sample. It's called a statistic. So statistic. So a statistic is a number that describes some aspect of the sample. So this is a number that describes some aspect of the sample. And it's pretty easy to memorize, right? Because you can see it's SS, PP, right? SS, PP, PP, SS. Sample statistic, population, parameter. So say you took 30 students from your local college, that would be a sample. And if you computed their average GPA, that would be a statistic. Let me just give you an example of this. Let's say we have a population. Let's say this is our population here. So here's our population. I'll just use people for our population because it's easy to draw people. So here's our little people. Some of them have hair and hats. There's our population. There we go. And this is the population. So population. And let's make this all people. Let's make it simple. All people who eat at BK. Let's do BK. BK stands for Burger King, right? So these are all the people in the entire world who eat at Burger King. And maybe we're interested in their average weight. We call the average the mean in statistics. So we want the mean weight of all of the people in the entire world who eat at Burger King. Well, can we figure this out? No, probably not, right? There's no way we can get the mean weight of all of the people in the entire world who eat at Burger King. So this is a number and it tells us something about the population, right? So this is called a parameter. Parameter. It's unknown, right? We cannot figure it out, right? It's a mystery. So what we do is we take some of the people from the population, right? So here's some of the people who eat at Burger King. There's more than 4 people, maybe it's like 30 people or something, lots of people who eat at Burger King. So when you take some of the people from the population, that's called a sample. And then we can ask the question, what is the mean weight of these people? Well, if we have 30 people, we can certainly figure out their mean weight, right? We can put them all on scales and weigh them, add up their weights and divide by 30. So let's say it's 175 pounds. So maybe this is the mean weight of the sample of the people who eat at Burger King. This is called a statistic. And so what do we do next? Well, that's the purpose of the entire course, right? So you have a population. Oh, what's that? There we go. You have a population and you're interested in something about the population, like a mean or maybe a percentage. And so what you do is you take a sample from that population and then you compute the corresponding number. And then after this, there's a couple of different things you can do, right? So that's actually the whole point of statistics. So in this example, this kind of illustrates one of the main ideas of statistics, right? You have a population, there's something you're interested in, and you can't access the entire population. So you take a sample and then you compute the same corresponding number, and then you do some math and you go from there. Hope that made sense.
Okay, this advertisement is not a part of the so okay. So think about the concepts you learned from the video. We are going to formally define them in our lecture notes. Let me set up this document camera. Okay. So we have so many concepts here. For every concept, I would not recommend you to memorize it word by word. Instead, I would encourage you to try to get the spirit of each concept, okay? So let's look at the first concept. Statistics is the science of collecting, organizing, interpreting data. Okay, so this is a long sentence to me. So in my mind, statistics is just something dealing, blah, 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 dealing with the data, okay? Okay, statistics is the science of doing something with the data, okay? Doing something. So let's simplify it. Doing or dealing with data. You do not need to take notes of whatever I write down. I just write down this to help you to understand it or deepen your memory. Then we have another sentence. Statistics are the data that describe or summarize something. So those are two definitions. Both are true. I would not stress too much if I cannot distinguish one from the other. All you should memorize is that statistics just doing something with the data. That's enough. Okay? Just doing something with data. Data, what is data? Data is just a bunch of numbers telling us something. So I hope what I said is helpful. So don't stress too much if you do not get it. Just remember it in the easy way, okay? So we have to go through the concepts we learned in the video again. Population in a statistic study is a complete set of people or things being studied. This is a long sentence. Do you guys remember what is the population in the video? Speak out or type in the chat, whatever is convenient to you. Do you guys remember that? Okay, so the population in the video, he showed an example. He tried to determine the mean weight of those people who eat at Burger Kings, right? So the population is just all the people's weights. All individuals' weights. Okay, so pay attention here. The population is not all individuals. The population is all individuals' weights. So that's what you are interested in. You're not interested in their gender or in their income, their ethnicity, their degree, their skin color, their clothes they're wearing, their vehicles. You're not interested in anything of them besides the weights, right? So you are only interested in their weights. So the population is the weight. So maybe there's somebody who is 120 pounds. There's somebody who is 150 pounds. There's somebody who is 141 pounds eating at the Burger King. Those are the population, okay? So we have tried to use more precise language. That's why I emphasize we need to consider their weight, not just those individuals. So obviously Burger King has so many shops all over the United States. You cannot count everybody. I mean, you can theoretically, but you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money to go every state, every city to count everybody in the Burger King's store and to weigh their weight. Instead, in order to try to approximate the real value, you take a sample. Okay, maybe you can take a sample of 50 people. So that's manageable, right? So you can get 50 people to can have an idea of what's the population like. So taking the population is unreasonable. Taking a sample is kind of reasonable. That's why we are always working with a sample. Try to use sample to approximate approximate population. Okay, I read popu to represent population in short. So what are we interested? We have the population parameter. So in the video's example, we're interested in the weights of those people, right? So in that case, the weight is population parameter are those people's weights. The weight, which is interest to us. But again, let me remind you this, we cannot take the weight of all the people who eat at Burger King. We can only take a small sample. So sample statistics are the number describing the sample. So we can have the weights of maybe 50 or 60 people. Okay. So maybe we can take the average of the 50 people so that we can have an idea of overall very mean weight of all the people who eat at Burger King. So that's my explanation of those concepts. Do you guys have any question? Okay, so let's put the idea in practice. Let me say this again. Everything we learned today is nothing about a calculation. We are only learning some concepts. So use your understanding and use your common sense to answer those questions. Do not overthink. Okay, so the first example. Clearly label what is population parameter, sample, and sample statistics. So we are giving you such a paragraph. We should extract what is population here, what is sample in this description, what is the sample statistic in this description. So the example is in the test of effectiveness of garlic for lowering cholesterol. 47 adults subjects were treated with garlic with a processed tablet form. Cholesterol levels were measured before and after the treatment. The average mean change in the subject's cholesterol level was 3.2. Okay, so we have a lot of information. I would give you 1 minute to think which is the population, which is sample, which is sample status, which is population. Okay, 1 minute to think about example 1. Okay, 1 minute is over. So I need some brave men and women to discuss with me, voice their opinion to me. So can anybody tell me what is the population here? Speak out, please. Don't worry.
47 adults.
I would say all adults cholesterol level.
Okay. So thank you, Roche, and thank you, Queen, for their speaking out. Okay, so now we have 2 different opinions. I'm just interested, before I tell you the answer, I'm just interested how our class think about this question. So if you think 47 adults, please type 0. If you agree the population is all the adults cholesterol levels, please type 1. I just want to know what's your opinion. Okay, so everybody type in the chat session. 0 is for 47 adults. 1 is for all adults cholesterol level. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Roche, even you type 1, you change your mind. Hi, Roche.
Yeah, I was thinking that it probably is all adults after. I guess I wasn't sure. At first, I was thinking it was 47 was the population, but then I was thinking it was possible that 47 was the sample.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Roche. So you basically explained what I want to say. Okay. So yes, the population here is all adults cholesterol level. However, we don't have enough money and we don't have enough person to measure all adults cholesterol level because we have like billions of adults in the world. Instead, we can measure 47 adults, right? So sample statistics, what we are interested in? Cholesterol level. So everything just follows very smoothly. But this is not complete. The cholesterol level of those 47 adults. Okay, sample statistics. Because this sample, we are only talking about the 47 adults. Population parameter, cholesterol level. That's it. Okay. So does anyone has any question about this idea? So understanding is more important than just copying what I've written down here. So make sure you read it, try to understand what I'm talking here. Okay. So example 1 is kind of straightforward. I give you warning. Example 2 is not straightforward. It asks you exactly the same 4 questions: population, sample statistics, population parameters. However, you really have to think and reflect on the words here to see what are those population sample statistics. Okay, I give you, like I say, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes to think about example 2. And after 3 minutes over, I will invite some of you to voice your opinion. So get prepared. Okay, 3 minutes is over. So in a account survey of 150 senior executives, 47 said that the most common job interview mistakes to have little or no knowledge of the company. I think this question is very funny because I think this question is talking about me. I remember when I first graduated from college, when I was interviewed at another company, I didn't do any Googling about that company before I go to the interview. Then the HR asked me a few questions about his company. I was kind of petrified, unable to answer. Then I failed the interview. So this is so real. Okay, do not copy my behavior. So when you graduate, when you're looking for a job, make sure you do the research about the company to know the basics about the company. So go back to this question. 47 said that the common mistakes is to have little or no knowledge about company. Okay, so just 2 sentences, not complex. So what is the population here? Okay, so I see Queen's response. Does anybody want to change something or add something or say something different? Let me remind you first. Oh, yes. Okay, I see your Frank's response, but unfortunately, both Queen and Frank's response are kind of still not hitting the target. They are very close, but they are not hitting the target.
Is it all people?
It is related with all people, but still it's different. Okay, so let me tell you directly. So what we are doing, we are trying to understand those senior executives' view about what is the most common interview mistake, right? We are trying to know what is their view about the most common mistake, interview mistake. So let me write this down. I think this is important. Opinion. Okay, we're trying to know the senior executive's opinion on what is the most common mistake, right? So the population is senior executives' opinion here. I mean, I should add the long sentence here, but we are trying to understand their opinions, right? We are trying to understand their opinions. So this is your population. Okay, so I write down here. Does anyone has any kind of different opinion? I know this question is kind of perplex. So it's okay if you cannot get it or you disagree with it right now. So you can look back, try to read what we said, what we read on here. Okay. So sample, just those 47. 47 CEOs, CFOs, blah, 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 senior executives. Okay. Sample statistic. This is also tricky. Okay, so before I answer the sample statistic, let us first discuss what is a population parameter. Recall that population parameter is a specific number of interest to the researchers. So it is something related with a number. So what is a number? In this question, we only have two numbers. Oh, apologize, not 47 senior directors, 150. Nobody reminded me. You guys should be brave to correct my mistake. Okay. We only have two numbers here. The first one is 150. It was describing how many samples we have, right? So it is not just describing the aspect which we interest us. So we have a second number here. 47 said the most common interview mistakes. So this is a number we are interested. What is it describing? It describes the percentage of senior executives who hold this opinion, right? This is their opinion. So let me repeat this sentence. 47% describe the percentage of senior executives who hold this opinion. Okay. So population parameter is just percentage of senior executives who hold the opinion blah 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 blah. The most common mistake is have little or no knowledge blah 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 about the company. So does anyone has any question? Any concerns? I know this question is perplexing. Okay, so the sample statistics is just what happened with this on the sample. So let's look at the definition of sample statistics. Are numbers describing the characteristic of the sample, found by consolidating or summarizing the raw data. So the sample statistic is just there, 47%. And I omit a non-sentence here, 47, which is the percentage of the senior executives who hold that opinion. Here I just write 47 in short. of blah, 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 blah. You just need to copy everything here. So anyone has any question? This is so perplexing. So when class is over, please read this again, try to understand what I'm talking here. So let's proceed. How to do a statistical study? Again, we have so much description here. Please do not memorize it. Please do not memorize it. Just get a basic idea what's going on. Know your goals. Use a common sense, okay? Use a common sense to understand each of the line. State your goals. Know your goals of your study. Second, choose a sample. I just talk about the keywords. Choose a sample. Know your goal, choose a sample. Know your goal. Choose a sample. I write everything into the shortest available form. Collect raw data. So I just can click data. Use sample statistics to infer the population parameters. I would just say sample statistics is what? Okay, so once you have data, you should know the sample statistics, and you just treat the sample statistics as a good representative of the population. Draw your conclusion. Then you just draw your conclusion. Determine what you learned, how it addresses your goals. Please do not memorize it. So every sentence just have a own feeling of those basic ideas. I write on here. So we should determine whether a sample is a good representative of the population. So let's say you want to determine the typical dietary habits of students at a college. So what do people eat? States whether each of the following samples are good representative or not. Okay, so you want to determine, you want to have a good sample of the typical dietary habits of at a college. So you have four options to draw samples. So let's look at each one by one. Again, I want to remind you, what we learned today is kind of verbal understanding. You may come up with a way to argue with me. However, I just explain those questions using my common sense and use my understanding. There's a little bit of vagueness here if you really want to argue. So let's just accept my common sense and continue the discussion. So the first sample, you can draw all the students in a single authority. So is this a good sample? So anybody can voice their opinion, by the way.
It's probably not a good one because a single sorority be all girls.
Very good. Very good. Qing, you mentioned the key point of this argument. All the people in this sorority are just girls. So they represent those girls' dietary habits, not boys. So this is not a good sample. Okay. So I also want to hear from other people's opinion about sample 2. Is this a good sample? Okay. Before I explain why sample 2 is not a good sample, I want to talk about my personal experience. Once upon a time, when I first come to UC Denver, I noticed a classmate. That person, he only eats potato chips and fried chicken. One day he said to me, he has not eaten any real food for a long time. This is a real story, real person. I think since we are in the math department, we compared with public health measures, we lack the knowledge of health compared with those people. That's why some of the people in our department only eat potato chips and fried chicken. So come back to the sample 2. Those people are in the public health measures. They are supposed to know more about health than other non-health related measures. So they perhaps will eat more healthy than an average person. Okay. So this is also not a good sample. Maybe health related measures will eat more healthy. Okay, I just use my common sense. I understand some of you may have different experience, may argue with me, but in order to reach agreement in the class, let's just use my naive observation of the world. Okay, any different opinion, any question? Cool. So sample 3. Students who participate in the sports. I tell you, this is also not a good sample because I noticed that those people who play into collegiate sports, they care more about their body shape. It seems to me that they eat more protein than the average person in order to build muscle, in order to build body shape or any kind of keep them competitive. So this is also not a good sample. I'm not going to write every detail here. I just explain. Those people may care more about protein. Again, this is based on my naive observation. How about sample 4? All the students who enrolled in a required historical class. Any opinion? Any history measures here?
I think it would be a good sample.
Great, Rocher. So anybody else have any different opinion? Okay, I see Frank agree with Rocher. So I'm also going to agree with Rocher. So according to my observation, history is kind of part of the general education. So most people are required to take history class, and regardless of their gender, regardless of their major, regardless of whether they play sports or not. So this is kind of a good sample. Okay, that's my reasoning. Obviously, you can argue with me using your personal experience. So anyone has any kind of question or opinion before we proceed to how to sampling method? Okay, instead of me talking through every sentence, I want you to have 2 minutes read about the sampling methods. Okay, 2 minutes is over. Let me brief talk about the sampling methods. This is very verbose here. So again, similarly, I want to try to summarize as what I did here. Every sentence, I just give you a short idea. Simple random sampling. So you just choose a sample of items in such a way that every sample of the sample size has the equal chance of being selected. So the keyword here is every sample of the same sample size has equal. Every sample of the same sample size has the equal chance. So on the next page, you will see how this is true in a real example. Second, systemic sampling. We use a simple system, not a simple random sampling, okay? Such as selecting every 10th or every 15th of the population, okay? So come back to the Burger King's example. So every 10th customer you see in the Burger King, you weigh them. Or every 50 custom in the Burger King, you weigh them. So you weigh 1 out of 50, 1 out of 10 at your convenience. Convenience sampling. So you just pick a sample which is convenient to select. The keyword is convenient to select. That's it. Stratified sampling. So this is very different from the convenience sampling. You are considering the differences between the subgroups. Subgroups have another name called strata. So let's say you should draw a simple sample within each subgroup. So go back to the Burger King example. So you want to know how much those customers weigh. but customs has men and women, right? So you draw something, make sure you draw some people from the men, make sure you also draw some samples from women. Customs also have adults and teenagers and also toddlers, right? And toddlers. So make sure you also draw some adults. Make sure you also draw some from the teenagers. Make sure you draw some from toddlers. That's it. So this idea is you draw, make sure you draw people from every subgroup of the population. Let's look at the next page. Identifying the sampling methods. So the tax auditor randomly select audits 100 single taxpayer in each of the finding tax brackets. So unfortunately, I write down the answer here already. But let's say if you do not know the answer, what would you guess? Any opinion? Okay, so whenever in doubt, go back to the definition. So you see how you have 4 types. So which of the description matches this method? The first one, right? Every sample of the sample size, equal chance to be selected. So every bracket, he choose 100. So this matches this description the best. Simple random sampling. This description the best. Okay, so you can read other descriptions. You find that they do not match very well. So use a common sense. So this is a simple random sampling. B, US Weekly Magazine. One predicts Grammy Award winners by polling readers who voluntarily respond by email. So this is what? Anyone has any opinion? Hi, Kidist, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Yes, yeah. Can you please share your opinion with us?
there. I don't know. Wait.
Okay, no worry. Okay, so again, you go back to your definition. Whenever in doubt, go back to your definition. So first of all, you get rid of stratified sampling. You are not run sample from every subgroup. There's nothing mentioned here about it. Every subgroup. You're only getting response from those people who respond to the email. Systemic sampling. Did you choose every 10th or every 15th from the population? No, according to the description here, you didn't do anything like that. Simple sampling. Are you making sure every sample of the same size have equal chance? Every sample of the same size. So this is the keywords. There's nothing mentioned here. All the magazine staff member do is just send out those emails to see whoever reply, and he draws a conclusion based on those people who reply. He does not care about those people's gender, ethnicity, income, age. He did not consider anything like that. So he did it in such a great convenient way. So this is a convenience sampling. Okay. Again, this is just the verbal question. You're trying to find the one which best match your description. Any question, any opinions? Okay, so C and D, instead of me explaining it, and then actually you can see my answer here already. I think I can give you 2 minutes to read the definition and try to see why my answers are true. Also, you can use this time to reflect on the previous two one. Okay, 2 minutes to think about it. Okay, so Elizabeth, thank you very much for your question. So yes, I agree there is something called a voluntary sampling. But again, this is a purely a verbal question. And the answer, the scope of your answer should only limit it to those 4 candidates. Okay, so I agree with you, voluntary sampling is a better way, but we are just limiting, since we're just learning it, we are assuming we know nothing about it, we just limit our answer into the 1 of the 4 to see which matches the description better. Elizabeth, did I answer your question? Hi, Elizabeth. Okay. Elizabeth, you're already putting me in a hot seat. So first of all, I agree with you again. Voluntary, yes, it is a type of convenient. So and I think the description here match the convenience very well. Yeah, since as you have said, voluntary is kind of convenience. Yeah. Hi, Elizabeth. Is anything else I can help you? Okay, great. Great. I really like those people who ask me questions. Okay. Think about C and D, please. Okay. Instead of me explaining why this is stratified sampling, why this is systemic sampling, I want to ask you, does anyone has any question? Why is it, any doubt, any concerns?
No.
Okay, great. So anybody else who has any question, concern why this is true? The idea is just read the description to see which one it matches to our previous definition. This one, you are choosing from every subgroup. So you are doing stratified sampling. This one, you choose every 100th cast iron. So this matches systemic sampling because systemic sampling is choose tens or every 50s. Okay. So let's continue. So we learned how to do a statistical study. I forgot to tell you, we have two types of statistical study. One thing is observational study. For example, for something you cannot change, for example, the weather, you are observing how many sunny days does Denver have on each year. Can you change the weather of Denver? Obviously, you cannot. So this is a typical observation study. So you just observe or measure how many sunny days we have. And you do not attempt to influence or modify those characteristics. Sometimes because you do not have the ability, for example, the weather, you don't have the ability to change the weather. Sometimes simply you should not attempt. In experiment, you have something you can change. For example, you can decide which one takes the new developed medicine to see whether the treatment effect or not. You have a freedom to change whether to assign somebody with a treatment or not. Okay, that's the key idea. So once we have a statistical study, we also have the word bias. And bias is not a new word. We have all kinds of bias in our society. In statistics, if the design or the conduct tend to favor some results, there is a bias. For example, if you are a drug maker, you develop a new medicine. When you design the experiment, if you may want to see the medicine effective so that you can put it into the market, right? Nobody disagrees with me that you want to make money by showing the drug actually effective. However, whether the drug is effective or not need to be tested by the experiment. And you can design a way to make it look nicer and better. You can also design a way to make it bad and not effective. It's all up to you. So when you are designing experiment, you are introducing a bias. Bias is universal, so we should establish some standards to minimize the bias we have. Okay, so I'm talking so much about this. I want you to have like 2 minutes to think about example 5. This is going to be our last question today. We're not finishing the lecture notes today. Okay, 2 minutes to think about example 5. let's come back. Does anyone has any opinion about question A?
An experiment.
Great. Frank, I see you're trying to say something. What would you say?
Experiment.
Okay, you also say experiment.
Yep.
Great. So you both are right. In this study, you can determine whether people take the cinema or not. You have the freedom to determine it. You're not just observing there. But how about B?
Observational study.
Agreed.
Great. So anybody has a different opinion? Okay, so this is observational because you are observing whether the pregnant woman is drinking alcohol and how this affects their baby or not. Whether they drink alcohol is not determined by you. I mean, you using our common sense, you are not determining whether a person should drink alcohol or not. So you are just observing their behavior, respecting their freedom, and you measure the outcomes or the results of their drinking. Okay. So, and I just want to remind you, drinking alcohol during pregnancy is very bad for your future babies. Many birth defects, especially brain birth defects, happens because of drinking during pregnancy. So do not do that. This is very bad. Okay. Also for men, it's also bad too. That's it for today's class. Give me, let's say 20 seconds. Let me take attendance. Okay, on Thursday, please be prepared to ask me a question about exam 2 review, okay? Please be prepared to ask me any question about exam 2 review. See you Thursday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, sir, I had a quick question for you.
Yes, please.
For the chapter, or excuse me, the homework number 8 that is on Canvas listed, is that the same as the My Math Lab assignment number 8 we have?
Yes.
Okay.
So
there are
somebody,
2 separate due dates.
oh, okay, thank you for reminding me that. Somebody think it's better for me to put the homework 8 also in the Canvas. That's why I did it. But thank you for reminding me that I put it wrong 2 days. So I should correct it.
No, thank you so much. I just wasn't sure because I know there was one due date that was coming up, I think this week, and then the other one was like Halloween. So I wasn't
Halloween. Great. Happy Halloween.
right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, goodbye.
All right, bye.
I had a question about Project 4D.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, you can share your screen, by the way.
Should I show my screen?
Yes, please share your screen. Otherwise, I'm not sure what you are talking about.